Thousands of years ago, your ancestors faced life or death challenges like this. Their hearts raced, their muscles tensed, and their bodies pumped out the perfect hormone, cortisol, to prepare them for fight or flight. But today, you're not facing a lion, you're facing an inbox, and yet your body doesn't really seem to know the difference. Let's discover how our body helps us survive stress and why, in our modern world, it can sometimes turn against us. Your heart is racing, your mind feels like a traffic jam, and you can't seem to focus. What's happening inside your body right now? Let's zoom in and meet the hormone behind the chaos, cortisol. Stress starts in the brain, whether it's a lion or your inbox. The moment you perceive a threat, your brain sounds the alarm. The amygdala sends a distress signal to the hypothalamus, which acts like a control tower for your body's stress response. From there, the hypothalamus activates the HPA axis, that's the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and adrenal glands working together. This system is like a command chain that prepares your body for action. The final step in the HPA axis, your adrenal glands. Two small but powerful hormone factories sitting on top of your kidneys release cortisol into your bloodstream. When cortisol enters your bloodstream, it's like an all-access pass to every cell in your body. This stress hormone doesn't work alone. It acts like a conductor, orchestrating a symphony of responses to prepare you for action. First, cortisol tells your liver to release stored glucose into your bloodstream, also triggering a process called catabolism, breaking down muscle proteins into amino acids. These amino acids are sent to your liver, where they convert it into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. This extra sugar provides your muscles and brain with the energy they need for fight or flight. Next, cortisol makes your body prioritize survival. It slows down non-essential functions like digestion, reproduction, and the immune system, so more energy can go to your heart, lungs, and muscles. In your brain, cortisol enhances the amygdala, the region responsible for detecting threats, making you hyper-focused on the immediate problem. At the same time, cortisol suppresses activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking, decision-making, and long-term planning. That's why stress makes you impulsive or forgetful. It's your brain's way of saying, focus on survival now and think later. Cortisol works with adrenaline to raise your blood pressure and heart rate. It directs blood flow away from your skin and digestive system and towards your muscles, ensuring that they have oxygen and nutrients to act quickly. Interestingly, cortisol isn't just the stress hormone, it's also the off switch for your body's stress response. As cortisol flows through your bloodstream, it plays a crucial role in shutting down the HPA axis, the very system that produced it. When cortisol binds to receptors in the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, it reduces the release of CRH and ACTH, the hormones that keep the stress response active. It's like a thermostat. When the temperature rises, the system shuts off. This is where cortisol's journey normally ends. But here's the catch. Cortisol is designed for short bursts of stress, not for prolonged exposure. When cortisol levels remain high, it starts causing damage instead of protecting you, especially in our modern high-stress society, crowded not only with people, but also constant information and comparison, economic pressures and hyperconnectivity replacing communities, all things that make for a perfect stress cocktail that can make you sick to your stomach. Literally. Because under chronic stress, cortisol redirects blood flow away from your gut to prioritize your muscles and brain, which over time can lead to slow digestion, bloating, and issues like irritable bowel syndrome. Even worse, cortisol suppresses enzymes that help break down food, leading to poor nutrient absorption and long-term gut health issues. Chronic stress also targets your immune system. Cortisol suppresses the activity of white blood cells, leaving your body more vulnerable to infections and slowing down the healing process. Over time, this imbalance can even increase the risk of autoimmune disorders as the immune system struggles to regulate itself. When cortisol levels stay elevated, it can damage the brain. Chronic stress is linked to shrinkage in the hippocampus, the region responsible for memory and learning. Meanwhile, cortisol overload increases anxiety and depression by disrupting the balance of mood-regulating neurotransmitters like serotonin. High cortisol levels also disrupt your sleep. Normally, cortisol peaks in the morning, helping you feel alert, and drops at night. But chronic stress can flip this pattern, keeping you alert when you should be resting. Lack of sleep then raises cortisol further, creating a vicious cycle that leaves you physically and mentally drained. Chronic stress also breaks your body's ability to regulate itself. Normally, cortisol shuts off the stress response through a feedback loop with the brain, but with constant activation, this system gets desensitized, leaving the stress response stuck in overdrive. All that damage combined results in weight gain, heart disease, diabetes, insomnia, as well as a number of other mental health issues. High stress sounds terrifying. It affects your body, mind, and even your relationships. But here's the good news. We're not powerless in the face of stress, and with the right tools, you can turn it into a source of strength rather than a source of suffering, transforming it from a drain on your well-being into an opportunity to thrive. Think of exercise as your body's reset button for stress. Physical activity burns off cortisol and floods your system with endorphins, your internal painkillers. Exercise also promotes neurogenesis, the growth of new brain cells, particularly in the hippocampus, which can shrink due to chronic stress. Aerobic activities like running, swimming, or even dancing are particularly effective, as they mimic the physical activity your body expects when it enters fight or flight mode, completing the stress cycle. Regular exercise doesn't just burn off today's cortisol, it trains your body to produce less of it in response to future stress. People who exercise regularly show lower resting cortisol levels and better recovery from stressful situations. Slow, controlled breathing not only calms the nervous system, but also balances the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide in your blood. This balance is essential because stress often causes overbreathing or hyperventilation, which disrupts this equilibrium and makes you feel more anxious. The breathing techniques counteract this by slowing the heart rate, lowering blood pressure as slow, controlled breaths dilate blood vessels, reducing tension and reducing cortisol levels. Now, I won't go into too much detail for the techniques themselves, but if you're interested, you should definitely look into things like box breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, or the 4-7-8 technique. The key point to take away is to inhale confidence and exhale stress. Mastering your breath might seem simple, but it's one of the most profound ways to take control of your mind and body. When you're stressed, your body often craves quick energy in the form of sugar or refined carbs, which can lead to blood sugar spikes and crashes that worsen anxiety and fatigue. Instead, consuming nutrient-dense, whole foods can stabilize blood sugar and reduce cortisol. Magnesium-rich foods like leafy greens, nuts, and seeds help relax muscles and calm the nervous system, while omega-3 fatty acids from sources like salmon or walnuts can lower inflammation and support brain health. Additionally, fermented foods like yogurt or kimchi nurture the gut microbiome, which has a direct link to mental health through the gut-brain axis. Staying hydrated is equally crucial, as dehydration can elevate cortisol, as well as reducing caffeine and alcohol, which can further support adrenal health and prevent sleep disruptions. Making mindful eating a practice, so chewing slowly, savoring meals, and avoiding distractions, can turn food into a moment of self-care, promoting both physical and mental resilience against stress. Your mindset and mental framing, though, are perhaps the most powerful tools in combating stress, as they shape how you perceive and react to challenges. At the core of effective stress management is reframing, viewing stressful situations not as threats but as opportunities for growth. This shift, supported by research in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, can lower the physiological impact of stress by reducing the brain's alarm response. Practicing gratitude trains the brain to focus on positive aspects of life, which boosts serotonin and dopamine, fostering resilience. Adopting a growth mindset, which emphasizes the ability to learn and adapt through difficulty, turning setbacks into stepping stones. Mindfulness, the practice of staying present, interrupts rumination and helps the brain manage negative emotions more effectively. Visualization techniques, such as imagining successful outcomes or peaceful scenes, leverage the brain's neuroplasticity to cultivate calm and confidence. Additionally, self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness you'd show a friend, reduces cortisol levels and builds emotional strength. Finally, setting boundaries and prioritizing what truly matters can help reduce mental overload, ensuring your energy isn't directed where it doesn't count. By training your mind to see stress as a manageable and even beneficial force, you transform it into a catalyst for growth rather than a barrier. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to discover your strength, learn, and adapt. Science shows that stress, when managed effectively, can enhance focus, motivation, and creativity, pushing you toward greater achievements. Philosophers and psychologists alike remind us that hardship shapes character. It's the fire that forges steel. By adopting a mindset of growth and purpose, practicing calming techniques like mindful breathing, and nurturing your body and mind with healthy habits, you can take control of stress rather than letting it control you. Remember, stress is not your enemy, it's a signal, a nudge reminding you that you care deeply about your life. And when you harness it, you don't just survive, you thrive. And with that, thank you very much for watching. Let me know how you handle stress and stay tuned for the next one.